what do you do when, as a woman, you are what we call dickmatized? Do you know what I mean when I say that? So you're dickmatized by this one guy who he's not showing the real investment. He's not showing the real intention. But when he does turn it on, you feel like the best thing in the world.
Right.
And obviously the only times he is turning it on is because he wants something from you.
Right.
That is a very common cycle. So as a woman, how do you break that cycle? You know, especially if you're in that situation.
Yeah. At some point, I think the woman needs to mature.
Yes.
She just needs to mature. She needs to grow up and see that sex isn't love. Sex isn't commitment. Okay. I mean, yeah, at some point she has to want more for herself.
Yeah.
And here's the weird thing though. I'm a big believer, and I get a lot of pushback from men about this.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that women aren't really into sex like that. Right? That we're really not into sex like that. I don't think it's necessarily sex. I think it's a dopamine high, right?
Yes.
There are some men that have the ability to talk a good game or look at us, touch us away, smile.
Yeah.
I think it's like a dopamine high.
Yes.
But in all honesty, women, I mean, men project onto women a lot. Like they have this belief that women are getting as much pleasure from sex as men are. And we're not.
No.
We're not. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
But we're not. Most of us are not.
Yeah.
There is such a thing called an orgasm gap.
Yes.
And that's just what it is. But
Yes.
I think those men, because like I said, I've dated one of those men who just, it wasn't sex. It wasn't sex at all. But there was something exciting about him. There was something very flattering, very charming.
Yes.
He saw me. He heard me. I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. I don't even think it's dickmatized because some of these guys are not that great in bed,
Yeah.
but there's something about them when you're with them. You
Yes.
feel seen. You feel heard. You feel
Yes.
understood. That's the magic.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
almost, it's not the actual act of sex. It's what the experience, how that makes her feel.
Right.
Because yeah, of course. Because yeah, guys can be like just the act of sex itself. And he's like, if it's just a lustful place, he's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. Yeah, that is so true. Is there a male equivalent where women think it's the act of something that he wants, but actually it's the experience of how it makes him feel? Is there equivalent, do you think?
I think so. I think there are women in the world, and they tend to be Leo women.
Okay.
Leo women have, they're never alone. They're never alone. They have a magnetic, charming,
Right.
like sensual, sexual. I mean, I've experienced it and I'm a woman. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to go another direction. What's happening?
Yeah,
But they do, there is an equivalent where men, it's almost like the siren song. They feel called to these women and they make them feel amazing.
Yeah.
They just make them feel so great. And and maybe it's the same thing. They feel seen, they feel heard and accepted.
That is true.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually think it actually is that.
Yep.
Because there's so many married men who use escorts. And a lot of the time, I think there's a misconception that he's just paying for sex,
Right.
but he's actually
more.
paying for the experience of having a woman dote on him.
Oh, yes.
You know, a woman who like smiles at everything he says, laughs at all of
Yes.
his joke. You know,
Yep.
of course, she's going to be very attractive. So he walks into a room and, you know, all the guys look and all the
Yep.
women look. And, you know, even as a guy, and it's such a, when I realize this, it's one of those things, once you see it, you can never unsee it. But as a man, if you walk into a room with a beautiful woman, everybody assigns status to you.
Oh, of
because
course.
she's chosen you.
Of course.
That's
That social proof.
It's that social
Right?
proof.
So it's not just you saying, hey, I can get this type of woman. No, everybody sees it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's something you want to bring to the conversation? I've been grinning.
All right. So let's think of 5 things that men want. What are 5 things men want from women?
Yes, very true. Okay. He has to find her attractive. If he's not attracted to her, she can be an amazing person, but it's not going to be romantic for him.
Yeah.
I know, generally speaking, for women, because generally there's more things guys need to have to be desirable. So if he's not as attractive, he can make up for it. But because generally speaking, the list for men is quite short, each thing is very significant.
Right.
And so being attractive is one of them. A woman who's in her feminine, you know, a woman who's in her feminine, you know, if he's quite a masculine man, he wants, you know, the feminine covers where the masculine is weak. And so that's what he's looking for. Respect. Respect is love to a man.
Yep.
It's easy to respect him when everything's going well. But when you have a disagreement, that's when that's going to show. Are you using profanity? Are you insulting him? Are you trying to insult his ego, where he comes from, all of this stuff? Or can you still have an argument or have a disagreement where you still have a level of respect in how you talk to each other? That is very important for men. That's 3. Let me get 2 more. Physical intimacy, of course.
Yep.
Physical intimacy. I mean, if he's with you, it's because he wants to be physically intimate, and that's the first reason a guy even approaches a woman in the first place.
Yep.
And a place of peace. A place of peace for a man. You know, my grandma, you know, said to me how her marriage lasted 60 years is you have to know how to choose your battles.
That's right.
You know, if something is really bothering you, you know, then express it and address it. You don't want that resentment to come up. But for example, if he maybe, you know, perhaps forgot to do the dishes, you know, the night before and he said he would do it. If this is a man who loves you, who takes care of you, who makes you feel seen, makes you feel heard, provides and protects you, right? You can just mention it to him, you know, hey babe, I know you forgot to do the dishes. I'm just letting you know that you forgot it. He goes, okay, sorry. You move on, let go, it's done.
Right.
So that's really important for men, because I think many men feel there are many things that guys feel they let go of for the sake of peace within the relationship. And so I think they like a little bit of that in return.
I agree.
If that makes
so
sense.
That's going to require a level of ego work for a woman to master that.
Yes.
The understanding that everything doesn't need to be said. Everything doesn't need to be said by you, and everything doesn't need to be said right now.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. I love that.
That means you're going to have to check your ego.
Yeah.
Because it's the ego that wants to like bring up all these things or say something right now. Whereas sometimes, like you said, you just have to pick your battles. Here's one of the things I found really interesting, though. Another guy friend of mine, he made mention of this to me. And over the years, I've recognized that it's true.
Yeah.
So like you said, men love peace and they let go of a lot of things for the sake of peace.
Yes.
Men also want to get credit, right? They want to get credit. Men are very loyal by nature.
Yeah.
And so in their mind's eye, they see, you know, all the things they do, paying the mortgage and taking the kids to school and all the meals they make and all of this and all of that. And then for this one disagreement to come up, it's like all of that gets thrown out the window in the woman's mind.
Yes.
And he's like, what about all this stuff I've done? Like, men want credit.
Yes.
And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
Like in that moment, none of that exists.
Yeah, it makes such
that's
a
something
difference.
women need to get better at.
Yeah, it's I say this all the time. Men want to serve the women in their life, but the gratitude is fuel for that service.
Exactly.
You know, and Jordan Peterson said this in one of his talks a few years ago. Men don't need that much encouragement, but the male experience, they get so little.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like you just say to a guy, like, "Hey, look, I just want to let you know that I recognize the things that you do for us. I just want you to know that I appreciate that." My gosh, he's sorted for a couple of months.
Yep.
Whatever it is you want, girl, he'll do it for you.
That's it.
Because he's like, oh, she recognizes the effort that I'm doing for her. And, you know, we kind of said this before, but for guys, getting into a relationship is kind of like getting a puppy, right? It's like getting a puppy. You know, he loves the puppy, loves to take it out, show people, gets love and affection from it and stuff like that. But it's a responsibility.
Yep.
You have to take the puppy out twice a day. You have to take the puppy to the vet. You have to buy the puppy food. You have to make sure the puppy is settled within your home. If the puppy's not happy, it's usually the owner's fault.
Yep.
It's usually your fault, right? And, you know, of course, this isn't to say with men and women, but you have to train the puppy as well. You know, establish the kind of relationship the puppy's going to have with you and in your home. And so, you know, when it comes to romantic relationships, being the man in a relationship, he takes on what is a lot of responsibility for that. And I think sometimes, and I understand, but it's hard for women to see it that way because they're like, oh, I get a relationship. I get a man. I get someone to do these things for me. Yeah. But obviously someone is doing those things for you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do women see relationships? I guess I should ask. How do they see it?
Unfortunately, they see it as something that exists just for them. And that's something I'm constantly working on, helping them to reframe. I'm constantly working with my premarital couples on learning how to co-create relationships. Yeah. So women historically have been pedestalized. They have been, you know, kind of trained to believe that the relationship is for them, the wedding is for them, and, you know, the kids are for them. All these things are for them. Yeah. And it's the husband's job, the happy wife, happy life. Yeah. And I am working very diligently on changing that narrative. Yeah. That healthy relationships are actually co-created. Yes. Each person comes together like building a home. They sit down, they plan out what they want in that home, and they bring their tools and they bring all their supplies, and together they build this fantastic home that they're going to live in. Yeah. And together they're going to maintain it. And if something is not going right, okay, there's a need here that I need to have met. Like, what do you think about that? Okay, well, we could do this. We could spend more time together. We could go out. Okay, great. And together, they're going to work on that. And both people have needs. The man can bring forth a need. The woman can bring forth a need. Yeah. And it should be treated the same. Yeah. Okay, I have couples right now that unfortunately, a lot of husbands who are in a sexless marriage. And I have such it hurts my heart. I have such empathy for these men because I know how hard it was for them to even get their wife into therapy. Right. But they finally have the strength to say, hey, you know, we haven't had sex in a year. We haven't had sex in 2 years. And it's shocking to me that a woman doesn't see that as a problem. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. That's a problem. Like for him, that's one of the major gains. Top 5, right? That's one of the top 5 of being in a relationship. Exactly. But I have to educate her. Hey, you know, if you at any point in time, I've actually said this more times than I care to mention. Okay. In premarital therapy, I say to the woman, and I have a straight face, hey, is there any possibility that at any point in your life you want to stop having sex? And she goes, why would you ask that? I said, because you shouldn't marry a man. Big facts. Unbiased, but big facts. Yeah. Don't marry. That's it. Don't marry a man. Yeah. He's not going to reach that time. And if he does, it's way in the future. Yeah. You cannot sexually starve your husband. Yeah. That's unexcusable. Yeah. So, you know, I have to say, yes, he has a need here that isn't being met. And so let's kind of, you know, come together. Let's think of some ways that we could address that. Yeah. But that's what co-creating is. Yeah. And guess what? So a woman starving a man from sex is like a man never speaking to a woman again. Yeah. What if he just stopped talking? He just stopped talking to you. Stop giving you that attention. Yeah. One thing I say is that the relationship a man has with his time is the same relationship a woman has with her kitty cat. That's it. It's something that he wants to share, but it has to be willingly given. You're not entitled to it. Right. And the same, I guess, a guy's not entitled to a woman's body, etc. But obviously, if you've married each other, you've made this commitment to each other. So how do you handle that? Because I can hear the women saying, well, if I don't want to have sex, I shouldn't have to. Then you shouldn't get married. You shouldn't be in a relationship with a man. Right. That is a part of it. Yeah. That is a part of it. And what I often, so this is the road I go down. Yeah. I need to find out if that sex is pleasurable, because for a lot of women, it's not. Like if I'm being honest, they're not receiving any pleasure from the sex.
Right.
So we have to go down that road, and it's a long path where we have to figure out what's going on. We also talk about polarity. We have that polarity conversation. If the husband's passive, if there's no masculine containment, yes, I'm not as attracted to you. If I'm acting like the mom in the relationship, that's going to kill a woman's libido.
Of course.
So there's a couple paths I like to go down, so we can make sure everyone's needs are getting met.
Hope you really enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode where that clip is from, then I want you to click right here where you can watch the full episode. And if you're ready to claim your man today, enroll in my program below, and I'll see you there. Wishing you an amazing day.